how many transfusions did Van Helsing give Lucy? And it didn't fucking help. But this guy's just like, hey, cow doctor dad.
If anything, it made Dracula fatter.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh. It's like, I'm coming back for seconds.
More blood.
More blood, thank you.
Why do you taste like a man now?
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to a very special Horsemen Comics and Gaming sponsored episode of The Horror of Babylon, where we are discussing the cult classic Near Dark. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And we want to say thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron. And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming for subscribing at the $25 tier. So we do 2 bonus movie episodes for them per month. And this, of course, is one of those. You can visit them at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, or at the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and say hello to the proprietor, Ronald III, the Grampus of Christmas. And you can also support us at patreon.com/4horsemen, patreon.com/the horror of Babylon.
You're trying to give them our Patreon money.
And
I guess I kind of already do with all the comics I buy.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the first time either of us have seen this movie. Prior to me telling you this was going to be our next Four Horsemen episode, had you heard of this movie?
I had not.
I had not either. And when I was told it, I instantly Googled it. I was like, okay, so it's like a cult vampire movie from the 80s. And like the first couple articles were like comparing it to Lost Boys, and the first one I pulled up was like, this is a way better movie than Lost Boys, and I haven't seen Lost Boys. I know you're not a big fan.
This is not better than Lost Boys.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition.
I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Background. This movie was co-written and directed by Catherine Bigelow. This was her first time directing solo. She has directed some other movies you may have heard of, The Hurt Locker and K-19 The Widowmaker.
Wow.
I love K-19. I think K-19's a great movie.
The Hurt Locker was my favorite movie from that year.
I actually haven't seen that, but it's been on my list for a long time.
That is surprising.
Have you seen K-19?
Mm-mm.
It's about a Russian nuclear... And it's based on a true story, but it's about a Russian nuclear sub where the nuclear reactor leaks and like part of the crew gets contaminated with radiation poisoning.
Huh.
And the captain of the sub is played by Harrison Ford. And Liam Neeson is one of his officers. It's a really good movie.
That sounds amazing.
It's really good. I highly recommend it. This movie was co-written by Eric Red, who wrote the Bad Moon, the werewolf film.
That's such a good movie.
I haven't seen it, but it's also on my list. It's been on my list to watch for a while.
It's not my favorite, but it's like in my top 3.
This film had a budget of $5 million, and at the box office it took in $3.4 million.
Yeah, so it did not do great.
It did very badly. Despite a poor performance at the box office, it had mostly positive reviews from critics, and over the years it has gained a cult following.
Yeah.
And some research I did on the origin of the idea of the film. So in the 80s, vampire films had become popular. Fright Night, The Lost Boys.
It's okay.
And Catherine Bigelow actually didn't want to make a vampire movie. She wanted to do a Western movie. However, Westerns were not popular in the 80s. Westerns kind of had their heyday in the 50s, and it kind of have gotten less popular as time has gone on.
Hollywood keeps trying to bring them back.
Yeah. So she wanted to make a movie with Eric Red. They couldn't get the funding for a Western. The studio suggested doing a mashup with another genre, and what they decided to do was a Western horror film, specifically a neo-Western, meaning a Western that takes place in modern day.
Jesus.
Now, we keep trying to experience Western horror. So we did the Confederado. We've done River of Teeth, which we've recorded but will not have released yet by this episode. And we've done this. It's spoiler alert, we didn't really like any of these things.
Yeah.
But I still really like the idea of Western horror.
Ryan, I think it's time we just get together and write and make our own Western horror thing.
Well, the article I read mentions two other films. Curse of the Undead from 1959, which is a Western zombie movie, and Billy the Kid versus Dracula from 1966.
I hate how fun that sounds.
Yeah, I was like, maybe we should check out those.
Yeah.
That could be fine. Catherine Bigelow, her future husband, is a little guy by the name of James Cameron. And when she got the funding for this and started production and looking for a cast, he suggested using his ensemble cast from his movie Aliens.
It's not a bad idea.
So that's how Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, and Jeanette Goldstein came to this movie.
I was honestly surprised to see them in this.
A remake of this movie was announced in October 2006, and it was canceled.
They probably looked at the original box office report and went, nope.
No, they put it on hold because of similarities to Twilight, and it never came off of there. It was put on indefinite hold.
Yeah, there's similarities to Twilight, which is 100% the reason you should make the movie at that time. Like, you ride trends while they're there.
Yeah, which is something we discussed in our Uzumaki episode last week. But yeah, I mean, it did poorly, but it has its following.
I was surprised at how popular this movie was when I was, like, looking at shit for it.
And I have a theory as to why that is, but we'll get into that later.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible three-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Okay, so structure and themes. I mostly want to talk about themes. You know, we already talked about this a little bit. This is a neo-Western horror film.
Kind of makes sense.
The term neo-Western, or even that the movie was a Western, was not something I was thinking about as I was watching it. But then after I read that afterward, I started thinking about it. It was kind of a Western. And if you take the buses and cars out of it and replace them with horses, the story that's told in this really does have like a lot of Western elements.
And it follows a lot of the same sort of beats.
Yeah. As, you know, outlaws who are transient, nomadic, who go from town to town taking what they need and moving on.
The showdowns at the end.
Yeah, the showdown. I mean, the showdown on the main street at the end was, you know, obviously straight out of a Western movie.
Just a 6-shooter, you use a Mack truck.
Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on that, though. Let's talk about vampires, and I want to get your take on the vampires in this movie, and also specifically, like, the vampire rules in this movie.
Okay, so this is where I'll some of the stuff I actually liked in the movie. They made some hard rules, such as sunlight hurts them.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's fine. Sunlight hurts vampires. Bullets don't kill them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat. And they did a couple cool things with that. Like, I can't remember the main character's name.
Caleb.
Like, he gets shot in the stomach with a shotgun, and he's like, oh, hey, what do you know?
And then, yeah, Bill Paxton is like, isn't that awesome, man?
I'm like, if I was a vampire, or especially, like, if I was an older vampire and I turned someone into a vampire, that'd be the first thing I would do to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would take them to, like, a biker bar, and just, like, assuming their guy kissed them on the mouth, so they would try to gay bash us or something, and be like, this is incredible, it doesn't even hurt, does it?
You'd probably do that. And then be like, oh, you guys are going to beat us up now because I assumed you're homophobes? And they're like, no, man, we're totally cool with it. And you'd be like, you sure you don't want to beat us up even a little bit? No, man, it's your choice. It's cool, man.
It's a kink. Come on.
Yeah. A little bit of pushback. I felt like the hurt by sunlight thing was really inconsistent because there were points where they could, like, be out for a couple minutes and not be hurt, and then there were points where, like, it felt like as soon as they went out there hurt. So for instance, the last scene where they May and the kid Homer, they both jump out of the car to run at Caleb and his sister.
Yeah.
And Homer, like, dies within a minute and May doesn't.
That's true.
She gets to Caleb and he throws a denim jacket over her head and she's okay. But also Jesse and Diamondback are in the car, but they're in the car. They don't even go outside.
I fucking love these characters' names.
Yeah, they do have great names. But they're in the car, and they get killed by the sunlight. And the very first scene after Caleb is turned, he's running through that field for several minutes in the sunlight, and all he does is smoke. And then they come running up in the RV and pull him in, and they're driving around in the sunlight like it's no big deal. But then at the end, they're driving in the sunlight, and it kills them.
I didn't think about it that hard. I like that, aside from Caleb, because again he's the like audience surrogate.
Mm-hmm.
The vampires just kind of relished in being monsters, and I honestly always prefer that to any other interpretation of a vampire.
Yeah, no, I like vampires who are monsters more so, and that's something I talked about with Gary Oldman in his Dracula.
And I don't even mind if there's like a little bit of humanity to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I prefer them to lean monster to human.
I think their motivations should be their own survival.
Survival. Whenever I think of vampires, I'm like, one of two primary motivations, if not both.
Mm-hmm.
Survival, because you gotta eat people. That's just your new rule.
Mm-hmm.
Or hedonism. Preferably both.
And if I could defend this movie a little bit, not a lot. Don't get used to this.
Yeah.
One character who was a vampire who did make a decision that wasn't based on their own survival was May. At the end, she decides to betray the other vampires to try and protect Caleb and his sister.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually think the movie did a good job justifying why she would do that. One, because it specifically said she had only been a vampire for 4 years.
Yeah, that's fine.
And she
hadn't been with them for like hundreds of years.
Yeah, she was a high school aged girl when she was turned. So essentially, she still was.
I kind of kept forgetting that because of how she talked a lot through the movie.
Yeah.
When that star dies, I'll still be here. That sounds like something like a thousands of years old vampire would say.
You see that star? It's going to take billions of years for the light from that star to make it here from Earth. And when that happens, I still won't give a shit about this movie. But I thought it was kind of smart that the only vampire that made a choice against their better interest was the young vampire who maybe didn't know any better or was still kind of a teenager making emotional decisions.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay. Young love, relationships between young people. Maybe lust is a better term than love for what happens between Caleb and May. That's a big theme.
I was thinking with my dick.
Which I have a rant about this, but we're going to wait until we get to characters for that. And then runaways, teen runaways, run away from home, nomadic vampires. It's funny, they start off in the RV, and I was like, ooh, is this going to be like Dr. Sleep? I fucking love Dr. Sleep. And then no, it's not.
I still need to read and then finally watch Dr. Sleep.
I think the book and the movie are both excellent. I'm a little bit of a defender because that book and movie are kind of controversial in the Stephen King fandom, but I think they're great. And
it's directed by one of my favorite directors. So.
Yeah. The similarities stop at nomadic vampires and an RV. Yeah, that's where the similarities stop. So
it's an RV, Daniel, not a van. I'm going to call it a van.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's go to characters. I want to talk about Caleb Colton, played by Adrian Pastar. And let me walk you through my experience when I started this movie, because I got really confused really fast. So I'm watching the movie, and it starts in like little podunk Oklahoma town, and there's all these guys like, you know, standing in the road shooting the breeze. And then the beautiful little blonde girl, May, she shows up, and one of them, Caleb, he starts hitting on her. And I'm like, oh man, this guy's a douche. He's like groping all over her. He's trying to kiss her. He's trying to make out with her. She's obviously not interested. I know what's going to happen. She's a vampire, and she's going to like take him away. And he's going to be like, oh, come on, baby, kiss me. And then she's going to fucking kill him. And she's the main character, and this movie is going to be about her. And boy, was I fucking wrong. The creepy dude who is trying to throw himself at this girl is actually the main character. And apparently she's also into this guy, which I got no sense that she liked him at all in that first thing. When she bit him, I legitimately thought she was trying to kill him, not turn him.
He was kind of pushy. Daniel talking, and I was going, he's a little pushy.
He's a little pushy. Yeah, he's a little pushy. And then, like, he lassoed her, and I'm like, I know that the thought is, oh, that's so cute, but no, that's like, I mean, come on, dude, you kind of got to have somebody's consent before you time them up with a rope.
Maybe if she had told him he's into, like, if she had been like, I'm into rope.
Yeah, like if she checked that on the list, it'd be fine. But like, you really didn't have her consent before you threw a rope around her, and that's not cool, man.
I'm being cheeky. It's the 80s.
And it turns out this guy's the hero of the movie, and I'm like, well, fuck, okay. I felt a little better about Caleb
as the movie went,
mostly because of his relationship with his sister. Like, I didn't really give a shit about him until he started defending his sister. Like, when they, like, grabbed his sister and was going to kill her, I was like, no, fucking Caleb, you knocked their skulls together. Like, that's the point where I gave a crap, but...
Yeah.
But it's still... I mean, what do you think of Caleb?
He was fine.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing I could probably say about most people, is they're just fine. I probably won't remember this performance in hashtag 20 minutes.
Unless this movie becomes a meme on the podcast, I probably won't remember this movie.
Yeah.
It is what happened to Phantoms.
Yeah.
Kind of happening to Valerian, happened to Roar. Like,
Roar.
Roar, I will never forget Roar, even if it didn't become a meme for us. Like, that movie is burned into my memory. Okay, May, who is played by Jenny Wright, who I thought was going to be the protagonist, and I was super wrong. She was okay.
I kept calling her Lisa Simpson in my head.
Yeah.
I think it must have been the hair. I don't know.
So, Yardley Smith, who plays Lisa Simpson, is in Maximum Overdrive. And she just does the Lisa Simpson
She
doesn't
voice.
act. Lisa's voice is just her voice, just like a little higher pitched.
Yeah.
But when she did Maximum Overdrive, she was like young 20s or a teenager, so it's just Lisa Simpson.
I love that movie.
Yeah, the movie's not good, but it's fun.
Yeah, but I love to watch it.
Yeah, no, it's fun. And actually, the short story is okay.
Is it okay?
It's okay.
Okay.
And there are 2 film adaptations of that short story, and the other one is significantly worse than Maximum Overdrive.
I love Maximum Overdrive because Stephen King does like this big introduction for it. I'm gonna scare the pants off of it. I'm like, buddy, stick to writing, come on.
The other one is called Trucks, and it was a made-for-TV movie, and it is absurdly boring. Okay, so, and here's my theory. I think the entire reason why people like this movie is Bill Paxton.
Was he the younger looking vampire?
Severin.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was kind of charismatic.
I think that maybe like his specific like over the top performance.
Yeah, like he seemed like he was having fun with what the movie was.
Particularly the bar scene.
Yeah.
And the scene at the end, the showdown at the end. My guess is that that's what people focus on. And I was looking online, and Bill Paxton is on all the movie posters, the DVD covers, the Blu-ray cover. He's on all of that. It's all like super focused on him. So I think that's why people like this movie. And probably, I don't know, we probably should have had someone on who likes this movie. But they probably would say, yeah, it's not a great movie, but I just really enjoy Bill Paxton's performance. Maybe something like that.
I kind of liked him and Diamondback.
Here was my issue. I think the big scene for him was the bar scene. But I couldn't get over the fact that they walk in and there's like 5 people in that bar. They kill the first guy and the other 4 watch. Then they kill the next one and then the other 3 watch. Then they kill the next one and the other 2 watch. And just, it completely took me out of it that not a single one of those people tried to run away. They all just stood there and watched as they were killed one by one by one.
I guess I've never been in a situation where, like, a dude with supernatural powers just started killing somebody.
I guess the explanation is that they were just frozen with fear. But I feel like after
what the fuck's going on?
After you watch at least 2 people get murdered,
I feel like you get a pass on the first one.
Yeah, because you're in shock.
You're like, what the fuck just happened? He just threw him across the room.
Mm-hmm. But then they murder the second guy, and wouldn't you think, okay, there's 3 of us, like, I can try and bail out a window, I can try and make a run for the door, and there's a chance that I'm going to get away because they have to worry about the other 2 people.
This is also America. I'm surprised none of them had
a gun. Yeah, and it's in, like, this podunk, like, redneck bar.
Like, I know the bartender
had a gun,
but
yeah.
I'm still surprised that none of the other ones, like, pulled out like a Glock.
The one guy had a knife, but it was like a tiny little knife.
Had a little stiletto.
Yeah.
It's cute.
I don't know.
That's not a knife.
I can see people enjoying that scene, but I was just super distracted by everybody just standing around watching as everyone else gets murdered.
I actually liked the scene, but for one reason, and I can't... Which one was the little kid?
Homer.
He cracked me up. Just not whenever he was acting, but whenever he was in the background just smoking and doing, like, weird shit that you don't expect a kid to do. Because he's, like, however many hundreds of years old. To me, that's, like, whenever you have a kid vampire, that's what you should do with them. Is some weird shit like that. Like, have them in the background doing smoking or thug shit.
So, I guess let's jump to him. And we'll come back to the other 2. So that's Homer, played by Joshua John Miller, who I was looking at his IMDb page. He was in Halloween 3, Curse of the Witch, and Tales from the Dark Side. So it has a little bit of a... And I assume they were bit parts. I don't remember.
I don't remember them, but I'd have to watch them again.
So, has been in some horror movies of note.
Yeah. Tales from the Dark Side.
Yeah, that movie's great. I thought that it was so annoying.
He cracked me up.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say. I thought the character was annoying.
I just like watching kids smoke.
I loved... My favorite part was when he smoked and went up in flames.
My favorite part was when, what's-his-face, the other guy, called him old man.
Severin, I guess. Bill Paxton.
He looks at him and calls him old man. I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess he's the oldest one.
I don't know if he's the oldest. Like, so Jesse Hooker, who's like the leader of the vampire...
Yeah, he's the one who called him old man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He fought for the Confederacy.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, so that explains why this kid's going around, like, smoking and shit, because he's been around for...
Do you know what it's like to be Do you know what it's like to be an adult person stuck in the body of a little kid? Do you know what it's like to hear about that shit every night?
Dude, this is like the 10,000th time you brought that up.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, you should have made your peace with it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of my favorite things in fucking Interview with the Vampire is there's a little girl vampire. And after, like, the first 100 years, I would have been like, okay, we get it. You can't grow up.
In Fables, the Pinocchio character has been stuck as a little boy for hundreds of years, and he can't get an erection, and he wants to have sex.
I need to read Fables.
It's so good. I absolutely love it. Do you have any thoughts on the leader, Jesse, played by Lance Henriksen?
I like Lance Henriksen.
Yeah, he's a good character actor.
Yeah. I love him in Aliens.
I haven't seen Aliens. I've seen Prometheus, Aliens Covenant, and Alien. I've actually, strangely, been watching them in chronological order. Because I saw Prometheus first, and Covenant second, and then the original third. So, and then the next one I'll watch.
That is the weirdest order to have seen these movies.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is after I watched the original. So just real quick, I saw Prometheus in theater with you and everybody, and didn't know it was an alien movie until the last 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, is this an alien movie? And then didn't really like it.
Had to listen to me bitch for an hour.
Yeah. Wasn't a big fan. Then Alien Covenant came out, and everybody at Four Horsemen was going to see it. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll rewatch Prometheus. So I rewatched Prometheus, went and saw Alien Covenant, didn't really like Alien Covenant. And then I was like, well, I guess I should at least watch the original. Watch the original, and you've heard my thoughts on that. We won't go into that. So I watched the original, and then Audible had a free Alien novel, so it was free that month, so I listened to that, and that movie takes place in between, that book takes place in between Alien and Aliens. It's about a mishap that Ripley had between the two movies, so I'm legitimately going through the Alien franchise chronologically, and I just need to get back into it. Diamondback, Aliens was her first movie, and Near Dark was her second movie. And I'm assuming those are like probably the two biggest things she's done. Maybe Lethal Weapons too. I don't know. And then she was in Terminator 2, which I haven't seen since I was a kid. And then of course her pivotal role is Irish Mommy in Titanic.
I'm just calling her Irish Mommy from now on.
I'll kill you all. I'll drive you crazy and I'll kill you all. I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Scary shit. Was this movie scary?
No.
No. What's the last movie you saw that actually gave you nightmares?
Nightmares?
For me, it's Us. That was the last movie I saw that legitimately gave me nightmares and still occasionally gives me nightmares to this day.
The last book was Phantoms. The movie kind of stopped those nightmares.
Yeah.
Pet Sematary, maybe? Because I saw the movie before Maybe a zombie movie, because I've dreamed about zombies a few times, but that's sort of hard to say, like, what zombie movie gave me the nightmares.
Pet Sematary also gave me nightmares, but I was a kid. Is there a movie you've seen as an adult that legitimately scared you so bad it's given you nightmares?
No, because usually, these days, whenever I go see a horror movie, I either see them with you,
mm-hmm.
or I see them with a date. And if the date's screaming into my arm the whole time, I'm too distracted to be scared.
I think I've become desensitized to horror movies that it's really hard to be scared. Us was different because, and it's not the movie as a whole, it's just the one particular home invasion scene, and that's just because that's such a real thing.
Yeah. There's been lots of horror movies that I thought were good, but, like, most of my nightmares are, like, shit from my past, or I have, like, a pervasive dreams about something I call the shadow people.
That sounds like a book.
Sounds
like what Watcher should have been.
I don't know if I've ever told you this. I sometimes have sleep paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do, it's always about the shadow people holding me down.
Ooh.
Was this afternoon when I was snapping on the couch, which was about my ex-wife.
Oh, great.
That was it. She was just in it.
It was just a couple nights ago, I had the strangest nightmare. I like woke up really upset. So, in the nightmare, it started kind of like a normal evening for us. Like, me and Beck and the kids are all sitting around watching The Simpsons. And it's an episode about the Reverend Lovejoy.
Okay.
Who's the pastor in The Simpsons. And in the episode, Lovejoy's a woman. And I'm like...
Okay.
And I'm like, when did they change Lovejoy to a woman?
You transitioned.
And Beck said they didn't. The Reverend Lovejoy's always been a woman. And I said, nuh-uh.
Mandela effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Emma's like, yeah, he always has. And Beck's like, yeah, she's always had it. And like, yeah, Lovejoy has always been a woman. That character is a woman. They've always been a woman. Same as Homer is a man, Marge is a woman, Lovejoy is a woman. I'm like, you guys are full of shit. This character was a man yesterday. And I got so upset. Like, I woke up like tensed up and anxious and sweating.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. The Simpsons retcon was your name.
No, that's not a real thing. That didn't happen.
Yeah, I know.
It was just in my dream.
But the dream of a Simpsons retcon is your nightmare.
Yeah, no, it it fucked me up. Like, I couldn't get back to sleep. I was upset.
I dreamed I was in a screaming match with my ex-wife, and you dreamed you were mad about The Simpsons.
Shut up.
That's so funny.
The fact that I remembered it means it upset me, because generally I don't remember my nightmares.
I mean, that was super detailed, too. That's great.
Okay.
God, you gotta keep that in.
Alright, sure.
We need to clip that. We need to clip that and put it to, like, Simpsons imagery and make that just its own YouTube video.
Sure, why not?
Kiss me, fat boy.
Kiss Me, Fat Boy. I kind of expected this movie to have some sex in it, and it really didn't. I'm not complaining necessarily.
Where you see the transfusions were symbolic of sexual exchanges.
Exchange of fluids.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to the transfusions. This is fucking stupid. I guess actually our next section is Kings and Koontz, so let's talk about the transfusions now.
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Hey,
why is that our Koontz?
I have a different Koontz.
Okay.
But that probably should be my Koontz, because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
The only reason I didn't like it was because it seemed to come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he looked over at, like, his dad's, like, medical shit.
Mm-hmm.
Said, hey, Dad, you ever do a transfusion? Like, nothing in the movie should have made him go, this will work.
Yeah.
Let alone it actually working.
It'd be one thing, like, when he joined the group, like, he asked, like, was there anybody who ever went back? And Jesse was like, oh yeah, there was one who went back, but we don't talk about it. And then they did, like, little hints of, yeah, and then he
he replaced all his cursed blood or something.
Yeah, and they, like, figured it out through the course of the movie.
It literally just kind of seemed to be like, huh, I'm gonna try that.
I mean, how many transfusions did Van Helsing give Lucy? And it didn't fucking help. But this guy's just like, hey, cow doctor dad.
If anything, it made Dracula fatter.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh. It's like, I'm coming back for seconds.
More blood.
More blood, thank you.
Why do you taste like a man now? You should really tell them not to put AB in you. You're B negative.
And then they top it off with that cheesy 80s ending where she wakes up on the table and she's like, and he opens up the barn door and the sunlight's hitting her and she's like, oh, why isn't this hurting me? And he's like, because you had a transfusion and you're not a vampire anymore. Hey.
You want to get old and gray?
You want to get old and gray together? You can move in with me, my dad, and my sister. And we're just going to be together now. Oh, no, actually, I want to go back to my family because it's only been 4 years and they probably still want me. I'm like, oh, I thought you were going to, like, move in with me and my dad and you could be, like, my girl bride or child bride. And she's like, no, actually, like, if I have my life back, I'm going to, move in with my family, go back to school, get my degree, have a job. Oh, I thought you would
be a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. So, this movie. All right.
Remember to come to the Whore of Babylon for the real feminist commentary.
No, it doesn't have anything to do.
No, I know. That's just both of where our thoughts went.
Yeah.
Was like, why would I stay? Like, I get that she kind of had the hots for him, but like, is that going to last? Save vampirism?
No, I mean, it was very much like a Romeo and Juliet thing where they were just
horny teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guarantee there's very little chance that relationship actually lasted now that they were both turned back into humans.
Hey, do you remember when gunshots didn't hurt us? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Kings and Koontz. Real quick, my Koontz was Homer and my king was when he blew up. Because that kid was fucking annoying. Should probably be the blood thing. Transfusions.
My Koontz is the transfusions.
Yeah. And your king?
Diamondback.
I'm changing my king. My king is Diamondback.
Yeah.
Smoking. Rankings. Mine's pretty low. I did mine ahead of time. I have fourth from the bottom, which is above All That You Love Will Be Carried Away, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and Roar. It's pretty low on my list. Not a lot of redeeming factors.
I think mine's going to be lower.
If any redeeming factors. It's bad when I say I prefer Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter over a movie.
I definitely liked Uzumaki and Phantoms more.
Yeah.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein at least had some spectacle. I even think Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is like, it had some stuff that was at least semi-fun and memorable.
Mm-hmm. Horns is better.
I like it better than Horns. Watchers!
It's in this range here.
Yeah. I like it better than Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
But do you like it more than Horns?
I think Horns made me laugh more, so I'm going to put it below Horns.
Okay, so it's your 5th from the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's my 4th from the bottom. Oakley dokley, neighborinos.
Neighborinos.
Alright, homework. You just heard the bell. That means class has begun and homework is due. And I say that you have to choose fuck, marry, kill, open a laundromat with, or own a dog with Homer, May, Jesse, Diamondback, and Severin.
Am I going first?
You are now.
Fuck Diamondback.
Yeah.
Marry May.
Yes, I agree. Those are my answers as well.
Kill, probably Homer. Open a laundromat with Jesse because she's been around long enough to know how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'll own a dog with Severin. I won't be owning one with him for very long because I think he'll eat it.
I have the same answers except Severin and Homer are flipped.
Okay.
I would kill Severin, and then I would own a dog with Homer because he's a little boy and he can't have sex, so at least he can have a dog. And, but it also. I would also ditch the dog with Homer, so I wouldn't have to take care of the dog.
We're just gonna give every person with impotency a dog. That's how I'm gonna run my presidential campaign.
Question for the listeners: have you seen Near Dark? What are your thoughts? Is it a cult classic? Are we idiots? If you love this movie, tell us why. I'd love to hear some dissenting opinions. And like I said, like I can understand like people who just really get off on Bill Paxton and his just like completely over the top performance. Like I did like the showdown at the end.
Yeah,
that was fun.
I think the movie needed more stuff like that to feel a little bit more westerny.
There were just so many like long, boring pieces. Like the shootout with the cops was cool.
Mm-hmm.
The bar scene, you know, I had my complaints, but it was still fine. And the showdown at the end was fine, but it needed more. There was just so many like long periods where like nothing happened. But yeah, all right. For further reading, Daniel, give us 10 better vampire movies. Go.
Okay, 10?
Yeah.
Lost Boys.
1.
Interview with the Vampire.
2.
Let the Right One In.
3.
Dracula.
4.
Dracula's Son.
5.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
6.
Oh fuck! From Dusk Till Dawn.
7. Blood the Last Vampires. 8.
Yeah, no, that's great. The anime movie.
Yeah, Dracula Dead and Loving It. 9.
Yeah, that's great.
Nosferatu. 10.
Fuck! How did I forget Nosferatu? That one's ranked so high for me right now.
I don't know.
I have had 4 beers.
Upcoming on the Horror Babylon this Sunday, we're doing our next book episode, which is on River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey, which Daniel loves. And then next Thursday, April 13th, we are doing our next 4 Horsemen bonus episode, which will be on the Christmas slasher from 2022, Violent Night. And then on April the 16th, we are doing a film episode on the newest Dracula adaptation, Renfield, starring Nicolas Cage, Nicholas Hoult, and Awkwafina. And then the next Sunday, we're doing our next big book episode, which will be Ringu by Koji Suzuki, who got his money from the motorcycle people.
He's actually a big motorcyclist.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like one of his biggest hobbies. That's why he keeps showing up in his books.
That's cool. Yeah, there was the kid in the motorcycle at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the
by the third book, he talks about motorcycles so much.
It's like, Koji, like, chill out.
The main character's dad is like a motorcyclist, and he keeps talking about it all the time.
Like Stephen King talking about baseball in his books. Like, okay, I get it. You like baseball. Let's talk about the monster. Okay. Thank you to our patrons.
Baseball.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Patrons.
Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron. And a thank you to our $25 tier patron, Horsemen Comics and Gaming, for sponsoring this episode. You can visit them at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall of Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you can go in and say, hey, to Ronald III, the Grampus at Christmas, and say, what did you think, Ronald, of Near Dark? Have you watched this yet?
Ronald McDonald.
Old McRonald had a store, E-I-E-I-O, and in that store he sold Yu-Gi-Oh cards, E-I-E-I-O, with a there and a guy there. Cast your Dark Magician, play your Blue Eyes White Dragon, do-do-do-do-do, E-I-E-I-E-I-O. Thanks for watching Near Dark and recording with me.
You're welcome, Ryan. I love you.
I love you too. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. Follow Daniel at DStarSick on Twitter. Follow Ryan at Darth Daimyo on the Bluebird app. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the horrorofbabylon@gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.